Okay, looks like we have a pretty good start here, so we're going to go ahead and get started with this evening's session. Thank you for joining us for episode number 35 of the Tuesday night Zoomcast of the officiating program. My name is Matt Leaf. I'm the director of the officiating education program, and I'll be your moderator host tonight, and very much look forward to spending the next 59 minutes or so with you tonight, and hopefully be able to provide you with some valuable information as it relates to updates to the officiating program. Joining me tonight is our Northern Plains District Referee in Chief, Pat Picicci, from Billings, Montana. I think he's probably in his 7th or 8th year as the Northern Plains District Referee in Chief. And another familiar face for those that have been on several of these Zoomcasts, Dave LaBuda, a USA Hockey National Referee in Chief. And again, I can't emphasize enough, the special part of this year is that this is officially his 30th year as a appointed volunteer within USA Hockey. So a lot of history and obviously a lot of dedication and commitments to our programs here. Again, want to welcome everyone and thank you for joining us. For those that are full-time regulars, thank you. It's great to have you involved again. And for those that may be new to this, welcome. And hopefully you'll find the information to be advantageous and helpful to you moving forward. As we always do, if you do have a question that comes up throughout the course of the session, please feel free to use the Q&A portion. We'll try to get to as many of those as we possibly can. And we also have, a quick presentation here that we'll give you in a second that will outline some of the key numbers and data and those types of things. As we always do, want to start out with a poll to get a little feedback from our participants and get some information from them. These have proven to be valuable to us in terms of understanding some of our demographics of those that have participated in these Zoomcasts, and also our ability to be able to cater some of these Zoomcasts to our audience down the road as well. So I'll launch the poll here real quick. I think there are 5 questions tonight. If you could take the next minute or two to go through each one of the 5 questions, give us your best answer for each question. And then at the end of the 5 questions, you'll get a chance to submit, and we'll review the results real quick, and then we'll get started with tonight's program. Okay, let's take a look at what we have here. Okay, sharing the results. Question number 1, which of the following best describes your 2020-21 game assignment schedule in comparison to previous seasons? Looks like we're a little bit all over the map here. We do have one participant tonight that's not an official. Thanks for joining us. For the rest of you, it's pretty much spread. A few of you have more games worked because there's fewer available officials. A handful, the same number. Handful basically made a personal choice not to work as many games because of COVID, which is certainly understandable. And about a third of you said that basically games are not available. I know that some of the areas, New York in particular, has just opened up. Illinois has recently opened up and stuff like that. So there's just not a lot of games to be able to work. Question number 2 is, your local government, a USA Hockey affiliate, implemented any additional COVID-19 rules, restrictions, or protocols? Yep, looks like the vast majority said yes, they did. Excuse me. If your previous answer was yes, how would you best describe your experience with these additional restrictions? Little over a third, 40%, said not a big deal. Just happy to be out there, and the fact that they're playing games, getting a chance to officiate. Another 40%, some inconvenience, but it kept people safe and allowed for games to be happen. That's a real positive response as well. And basically the rest down here is no special COVID restrictions or not an official. So I think it's interesting for me, at least, to see, and I know with Dave and Pat too, is that the vast majority of the officials that are committed to this game did what was necessary in order to try to keep everyone, including themselves, safe. But for the most part, we're willing to do whatever was needed just to be able to get back on the ice and enjoy the game that they love. How would you rate your overall hockey experience for the 2021 season? All things considered, it's been a great season, just under 50%, pretty much the same 20%. Not been an enjoyable season and looking to get a fresh start, which is understandable. And more than a handful that just want to forget the 2021 season, bring on the summer, and hopefully that light is at the end of the tunnel, and 21-22 will be a relatively normal year. Final question, just to get some information. Are you interested in attending the Advanced Officiating Symposium and becoming a tenured official someday? 3/4, 76% said yes. 14% no. And we have a couple that, or one that has already attended the seminar in 2019, and thank you and congratulations. And then once again, one that's not an official there. So again, thank you very much for that feedback. It's very relevant for us, and something that gives us some information moving forward on what we can continue to do to best serve our membership through our programs. Okay, with that, I want to get our panelists involved here a little bit tonight before we start our presentation. Pat, kind of sort of seen the survey there, the poll questions, and what the answers were. What's been your overall view and impression of the 2021 season, at least what you've had to deal with in the Northern Plains District?
This year's been, I'm going to say, unprecedented, obviously. I think it's been confusing at times. I think it's been successful. And I guess I'll finish with it's really been impressive for all the officials that didn't know exactly where things were going, but took kind of the leap of faith to get registered, get complete, and everything like that, especially in the Northern Plains District. I'll have to get a shout out also to the staff at USAH Hockey and all the RICs throughout the country, and supervisors and things like that. We didn't know going into this what we were dealing with, and just how different each district is, and the ability for the officiating leadership to be able to put together and change on the fly everything they've done to get the number of officials registered and complete throughout the country has been nothing short of amazing. So I can't stress enough how nice it's been to work with a group that doesn't just think of their own district, but helps out and accommodates every district and looks out for every official out there. So in that respect, I just got to say it's been very impressive to see what we can do and what we have done when we needed to, with things changing like they have.
Dave, kind of sort of the same question. What stands out to you as you look back on this season so far?
Thanks, Matt, and welcome, Pat. Didn't get a chance to say hello earlier. Oh. Well, I certainly agree with Pat that it's been an unprecedented season, and it certainly presented several challenges to us within the officiating program. Dealing with the pandemic and the various state and local restrictions that around the country, it was difficult enough. But on top of that, we had to really develop quickly the whole virtual seminar program. That was something that certainly we were in the very initial stages of planning for a couple of years from now, but certainly because of the inability to meet in person in many, if not all, of the places around the country early in the pandemic, we had to develop that curriculum and put it into practical use. Along with developing that virtual seminar curriculum, we also had to transition our instructing staff to be able to become comfortable in instructing and teaching in that environment, and getting them familiar with the virtual Zoom environment and all of its many tools and things like that. We then also had to, provide an online modified closed book exam protocol, and then almost on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, we had to continually analyze how many virtual seminars or how many in-person seminars, once things began to loosen up a little bit towards the middle of the pandemic in certain parts of the country, how many virtual seminars did we need? And how can we continue to accommodate the needs of our membership with providing the seminars that everyone needed to complete their registrations for the season? So I would agree with Pat. We really have an exemplary group of volunteers, both as district RICs and as instructing staff and local supervisors, and certainly compliments to all of the officials who made the effort to register this year and to complete their registration, so that not only can they work what's left of the remaining of the regular season, but also go into the spring and the summer sessions.
Okay, thanks, Dave. I'm going to share my screen real quick and start a little presentation that I think will kind of sort of summarize where we're at numbers wise and some of the challenges that we face this season and those types of things. So let me get going here. So we'll start out just on the registration side real quick. As you can see, comparison to last year, being in the blue, the level ones are down significantly, and level 2, 3, and 4 we're actually running at about 90%. So the returning officials, and that's pretty similar to the player numbers. And then overall, we're running at about 77%. In terms of where we were last year with final registrations. So with that, I guess my next question is for Pat. The Northern Plains district, your district is appeared to have bucked the trend a little bit, and that you're sitting at a 93% registration rate compared to last year, when we're 77% nationally overall. I guess my question to you is, are there anything that you can attribute to that success? And or did the district and you and your volunteer staff do anything different to kind of sort of steer that and keep this thing afloat?
I wish I could say there was something great that we had done out here, but I really have to attribute our registration rate and stuff to our district really not being shut down. Most of our states, we were open when normal hockey registration, normal official registration started. So we were just business as usual. We are kind of a late starting district in that, our seminars and things don't get started until late August, early September. And, our states were mostly open. And so our guys had to be prepared. I challenged our state RICs and supervisors to not let the officiating program not be the ones that weren't ready when hockey got started. And so they all took that mantra, and they got everything done. We had a lot of in-person seminars. The virtual seminars were kind of, well, that's for other districts. But then some of our counties and cities got shut down about a month and a half into things. So we had to adapt. We put on some virtual seminars, and lo and behold, people love those. They went over really well. And then about 6 weeks ago, hockey opened back up in some of those areas that got shut down. But I have to say, just the fact that our states were open and most of our counties were open, that was a large part of our higher registration numbers this season.
Okay, great. Dave, I guess the good news, as I alluded to, was that, 90% of our returning officials, we're at about 90% of where we were last year. And that's actually just below the player registrations, ages 9 to 18 on the player side. Our 8 and unders are down. Our adults are obviously down considerably, but those players that are between the ages of 9 and 18 years old are running about 93, 94% of registration numbers. So with that being said, and we're 10% down, how confident are you that we're going to be able to get that 10% back, on that team or on our team next season? Or are they just part of our normal attrition or normal retention rate? And I guess more importantly, will we be able to recoup the lost registrations from new officials?
Well, that's a pretty complicated question, Matt, and I'll try to go through it in a way that makes some sense. Well, first of all, as you said, levels 2, 3, and 4 officials are back at about 90% of where we were last year. The thing that concerns all of us, and I know concerns all of us on this call particularly, is the level 1s right now are at 63% of what last season was, and that's really concerning for us, because that's a critical that level is critical, because that's basically our developmental base for promoting and educating our officials. And if we lose people at the level 1 level, it means that all the other levels in following years are going to be have fewer officials available. No, I don't see this. I don't see the 10% that we're missing this year at level 2, 3, and 4 as a regular part of our regular retention problem. I think the pandemic played a very big role, and as both you and Pat mentioned, the fact that in many of the areas of the country, games didn't really open up or start to get played until maybe a month or 6 or 8 weeks since today, actually. A lot of officials felt frustrated that there were no games, so they felt, why should they register? It should be noted that just yesterday we passed the 20,000 officials registered mark, and just about around 16,000 of them are complete. That's, under the current circumstances, that's pretty comforting. Would we have liked more? Absolutely. But also we have to take into consideration the fact that there aren't as many games being played now as there were this time last year. I think we will recover. But it will take us a couple of years to get those numbers back. As I'm sure Pat knows, he's part of the discussions that at every meeting that we have, both in the winter and the summer, we're talking about ways to improve and attract more officials and to keep them around longer. What's interesting, I think this year in particular, is that, in the incomplete registration area, what are officials missing to complete their registrations? Because there's quite a large group, as I said just a minute ago, 16,000 are complete and 20,000 are registered. Why aren't those officials complete yet? Well, it's really kind of interesting. The number one thing that seems to be missing is their modules, their online modules, which, are available to the individual at any point in time. And so, we're doing our best to remind them that they need to complete that part of their registration. That's followed by the open book exam. Again, it's available at their convenience. And as Pat said, listen, the virtual seminar program has been very well received, and quite frankly, 95% of the officials have completed their seminar requirement, are only missing either their modules or their open book exam, or in the cases of level 2, 3, and 4, their modified closed book exam. You know what? Games started too late. There are safety concerns on the part of individual officials. And let's not forget, we still have the abuse issue, which we need to continue to address. Even though, you know, we're in the midst of a pandemic, we still have some people out there who don't understand that, you know, officials have a job to do and they're doing the best job that they can do. And they need to they need to give them the opportunity to just simply do their job in a secure and safe environment. And then, of course, with the pandemic, you know, people's individual work environments have changed. A lot of people wound up working at home, and this changed their schedules, and probably in some cases demanded more time that they devote to their job, and didn't have time to really finish their requirements for their registration. The last thing I just want to mention is, it's kind of interesting. I thought it would be interesting to discover what age groups may be more prone to be not completing their registrations versus other age groups. So we kind of broke it down of the group under 18, the group 18 to 35, and then the group over 35. And surprisingly, it's almost pretty much balanced across the board. The group that's under 18, 38% are part of the group that's missing registration requirements. The 1930 to 35 age group, 28% make up that group of officials missing requirements. And then the over 35 is 34%. So you know what? I don't think it's necessarily just one thing again. I mean, those age groups obviously have different priorities going on in their lives. And I just think that hockey has not necessarily been the highest of priorities in all these officials' minds. And the fact, again, that, you know, there wasn't necessarily the demand as in most areas until recently, when games started to really pick up again, it wasn't something that was high on their priority list.
Okay, thanks, Dave, and some great information, and we'll be sharing some of the specific numbers with you here shortly. But I wanted to stop on this slide real quick, because this shows a comparison of complete officials last season versus this season. The interesting thing is the pie chart that's on the right over here is the percentage of total officials that are complete, and you can see that it's pretty much similar. I mean, it's a very similar level of complete officials this year in comparison to last year, and that number is right around that 80%, and that's kind of sort of where it has been for the last several years. My question, I guess, to you, Pat, is you know, even though we have a fewer numbers overall, we're still getting the same completion rate. Obviously, if we can somehow improve that completion rate, even by just 10%, if we can go from 80% to 90%, that's 2,000 additional officials that enter into the pool of officials that are eligible to work games. What are some of the things that the RICs have discussed and continue to discuss that will ultimately help us see if we can't boost that number a little bit and increase our pool of complete officials?
For that, I'm gonna kind of go back a few years. So when I started, 8-9 years ago, the RICs were discussing, how do we get officials complete? How do we get more officials complete? And we've gone from tailoring our requirements to shorter seminars, modules, all that with the recommendations of officials that we had asked their opinions in our seminars. And so I think continuing to do that, the closed book and open book tests, because of what we've gone through this year with the pandemic and the virtual seminars. Basically this year it was two, it was an open book test and a closed book test, but they were both done online. And so we've talked about combining those two into one test. But like I said, more than anything, just asking the officials what they would like to to see, to make this process easier on them, but still get the proper education out to them in a format that is standard across, or as close to standard as we can throughout the country. So just asking for their feedback, trying to tailor it so that it's more user friendly to the officials, and hopefully get that up into the 90% rate would be great.
Yeah, no, that's some great information again. And I think just a quick history and the rundown, and you kind of sort of alluded to it. We have made some pretty significant changes over the course of the last decade for sure. We've gone from a full 8-hour seminar down to, for all practical purposes, this season, the Zoom seminar was 3 hours, the virtual part of it, and even the in-person is somewhere between 3 and 4. We started out when we first launched the modules, we were running at about 3.5 hours. That's down to, if you're a returning level 3 official now, you're basically looking at less than an hour if you can quiz or test out of the electives. And the exam, we've gone from 100 questions down to 50 questions on the open book exam. This year, as you alluded to, the closed book exam was really a modified open book, and there's been a lot of discussion in keeping that type of a format. And that can be done online as well. And believe it or not, I mean, we had a 96% compliance rate in terms of the closed book exam. So there are a lot of things that we have done and continue to look at, and we will certainly continue to look at all the options that are out there to try to streamline and make it a little bit easier. But at the same time, I hope everyone can understand that we also have a balance. And that balance is that we have an obligation to the organization. We have an obligation to the game as it relates to the education component. What we're really asking our officials to do is to dedicate somewhere between 8 to 12 hours at the start of each season to practice the art of officiating and prepare themselves to go out to be the best officials that they can be. And you compare that to a typical team, and they practice 3 times a week. They have off ice a couple of times a week, and then play a couple of games. And we're the ones that are expected to be perfect. And, we don't get that same practice time except for some of the education that takes place during the season. And we do have a lot of local areas that do a great job with continuing education with their officials groups and local associations as well. Moving ahead here, the next slide. And again, this is kind of what Dave was alluded to when you break it down by age. Roughly 38% of our officials are under the age of 18. 28% are in that 18 to 35 category, and 34% are over greater than 35 years old. And then if you look at the completion rate, we did have a little higher completion rate with the over 35 than we do with the younger groups. But again, it's not necessarily a real significant difference in terms of how that breaks down. And we kind of sort of face the same problems at all levels in terms of getting the officials to complete. So Dave, I guess my next question, and you started to allude to this a little bit, and maybe you can get into a little bit more. But I think the part that always amazes me is that we have a core group of officials, and it's always been roughly between 95 to 98% of our registered officials that take the time to attend a seminar. And in the past, that was an in-person seminar. Sometimes they had to drive, they had to give up a Saturday morning, whatever it might be. Now, the Zoom and the virtual seminars, it was a little bit more flexible. But 95, 98% take the time to attend the seminar, but then for whatever reason, they're not willing to go out and complete their other requirements. Just as an example, last Thursday, I sent out just under 1,000 emails to officials that were requirement specific And those were officials who simply were missing one thing. They were either missing their open book exam, they were missing screening, they were missing safe sport, but it was only one thing that prevented them from getting their card and crest. Some of them responded. They simply weren't aware, that they were missing that requirement. Others, we identified maybe a glitch in the system, especially when it dealt with the screening and or the safe sport, which is not necessarily something we control. And we were able to fix that for them. But so far out of that 1,000, we've had about 200, so 20% that have completed since that time. My question to you, Dave, is do you have any other thoughts or any other ideas on how do we crack those, who basically go through most of everything they need to do? They've made 8 out of the 9 hours of commitment, or 8 out of the 8.5 hours of commitment that we need for them at the start of the season through the education programs. And yet we just can't quite get them over the hump. Any thoughts there?
Well, as you said, I kind of started to address this a little earlier, but as you said, this is the completion rate has been pretty consistent, and one would have thought that might have changed a bit for this season. What I think has changed this for this season, though, is maybe it's narrowed the reasons that maybe are on the table for why these officials don't complete their registration. Because certainly, as you just pointed out, I mean, we're trying to make every effort to remind those individuals who are missing some component of their registration, what exactly that component is, and to encourage them to go complete it. But again, I think maybe we for this particular season, we don't need to overthink this too much, because it seems pretty clear that with the season opening up, with games coming online so very late in the season, along with the safety concerns with the pandemic, I think there are that group of officials, and I'm not sure it's the same group that it's been in the past. I think the number may be the same, but I think the individuals that make up that group may be different this season. Just said, look, most of the season is done. I think I would rather either wait until it is, safer conditions are available for us to go back into the rinks and work games. I also think that, with the changing work environments in individuals, people, working lives, that I think is having an effect on how some people have made the decision that they just need to just focus on that part of their time and devote to their work environment. And to be honest with you, I think frustration is probably at the bottom of all of it. I mean, I'm sure people, our officials have, as you said, and as Pat has said, made a commitment to serve the game and to enjoy their participation. And quite frankly, I think in some cases that enjoyment factor just wasn't there this season. So I'm confident, and I think we all are confident, that we'll get all those officials back in the next year or two. Once things, to the best of our ability, of what we could call normally, become normalized, and we can get back to the kind of the old routines of the previous seasons.
Sorry about that. Great, Dave. Thank you. And Pat, I guess one final question on kind of sort of the registration side of things for you before we start tackling some of the other programs and giving a quick update. But your district, the Northern Plains district, was probably one of the few districts that actually was able to conduct some in-person seminars and also did the virtual classroom seminars. What was some of the feedback you have received about various seminar formats? And was there any preference with the officials? Where do you see our program moving forward with the virtual seminars or combinations in the future?
So our district was, like you had said, able to host in-person seminars because we were open for our regular start, if you will. And it was only, towards the middle of the registration season that some of our things got closed down. I think the local officials were anxious to see a virtual seminar, what that was like. I know our instructors were nervous because they weren't, that this was going to be something new. It was something they were going to have to do for the first time. And so they were probably more hesitant than anybody else. But we were able to put on a few virtual seminars. They were multi-state, so the district kind of put them on, and the feedback we had was extremely positive. They went from not knowing what to expect to hearing stuff from a different instructor, questions from other officials throughout the district. There were, I think, 13 states represented in a couple of our district seminars, and so questions and interaction and things like that really made the virtual seminars something special, and something that I think, like Dave and you had alluded to earlier, something that's going to be part of our education system for years to come. And so I was pleasantly surprised, and next season we're going to have to update some technology so they can be even better moving forward.
Dave, any thoughts on where you see the our seminar program evolving, or how you see that evolving in the future seasons?
Well, I agree with Pat in that I think the virtual seminar format is here to stay and has a place within our educational program. The challenge for all of us are going to be is to figure out what the mixture or what the balance of in-person versus virtual seminars needs to be, so that we, as you mentioned earlier, we can meet the responsibility that we have to properly and fully educate the officials that we put on the ice and who are part of the game. I think from the discussions that the district RACs have had, I think, brand new level ones, I think when it becomes possible, will probably still be required to attend an in-person seminar when it's available. I mean, you can't underrate the value of that in-person experience. And to be honest with you, I mean, part of the feedback that we've received in the past, particularly when it came to when we implemented the tenured official program, where officials, experienced officials, were no longer required to attend a seminar. The feedback that we received from some of them was that they really wanted to go to an in-person seminar because they saw it not only as a benefit to hear from fellow officials, but also the social environment that it prevented and the networking opportunities. But as I was saying, I think we're going to have a mixture of in-person and virtual seminars in the future. I think brand new level ones are going to be required to attend in-person seminars because of the importance of that in-person experience. I also think we're going to probably continue with the online modified closed book exam for levels 2, 3, and 4 in the future also, because that seemed to also be very well received.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Okay, just a couple other things just want to touch on and review real quickly. We did extend our registration season. Generally, the registration season or application process would end on February 1st. We've extended that to March 10th, and that's actually been very good to us. We've probably had about an additional 600 to 700 officials that have registered with us since that time. That especially from some of those states like New York and Illinois, where games have just started. And because of that, we now have until March 24th to complete the registration requirements. Again, this 411 number was from last week. We continue to get 20 to 25 officials every day. So it has been a very productive change for us. And taking into consideration the challenges of this season. Just want to touch on a few other things, just from a program update standpoint. National tournaments, as of right now, they are going. We just announced we had 3 sites that had to back out because of COVID concerns, but we've been able to replace those sites. So everything is posted on usahockey.com in terms of the various tournaments and the sites that where they're going to be taking place. The youth council did push them back roughly 4 weeks. So it's now at the end of April and the first weekend in May instead of March and April, so to speak, to buy a little bit more time. And we are in the selection process, working with the district referees and chiefs to identify those officials who have an interest and are national tournament eligible to assign them to the various tournaments and hopefully be able to provide the same level of service that we always have. Obviously, there will be some protocols, COVID protocols in place, but USA Hockey is, and our medical people and our safety directors are working pretty diligently with the tournament hosts and the National Tournament Committee to put together protocols that will promote the safest environment possible. Instructor training program, because of a variety of reasons, we will not be able to conduct in-person instructor training programs this spring as we normally would. We are in the process of putting together a virtual refresher course that'll probably take place sometime towards the end of May. And it'll be for those instructors who have previously attended the instructor training program. But much of that focus will be on the technology and the virtual aspect of it in order to move forward and best prepare our volunteer seminar instructors to be able to fulfill our obligation on the education front at the start of every season. Summer development camps are a little bit up in the air right now. I think there will be some of them. I know the player side is committed to conducting the camps, and as long as they're conducting the camps, we're kind of sort of dependent on them. So that information should be coming out shortly in terms of any potential dates and what types of levels and those types of things. Basically, the evaluation program, we're going to touch on that in a little bit more detail in a second. 2021-22 registration. As of right now, we are planning to open up right around June 1st in terms of the registration for next season. The challenge that we have is, since this is a rule change year, the rule changes will not actually be voted on and or adopted until our annual Congress on June 9th or June 10th, whatever that date might be. And obviously there's going to be some production time in order to be able to produce the rule books. So realistically, we're going to start our registration season, but not be able to produce rule books this year, probably until sometime right around that 1st of August. So the RICs are definitely looking at, in terms of how we may want to manage our seminar schedules, at what point maybe we open up the open book exam and those types of things to maybe open up a little bit later. However, the electronic version of the rule book should be available within a week to 10 days or so of the annual Congress. So everyone will at least be able to access online, and we'll certainly have the changes summarized and some stuff put together that outlines those rule changes that do get adopted. And Dave and Pat just alluded to the seminar format. It's still a work in progress. The referees and chiefs referee section is meeting monthly via Zoom to kind of sort of map a strategy out, and I would say look forward to getting some more information on that in the coming probably 4 to 8 weeks, somewhere in that range. Basically, just wanted real quickly touch on the Advanced Officiating Symposium. I do have a call scheduled with the hotel coming up here in the next week to just confirm that all systems are go. At this point, we do believe that that we are going to be able to conduct an in-person advanced symposium on those dates, August 6th through 8th in Providence, Rhode Island. We have over 100 officials registered thus far, and look for an announcement to go out on that, and a direct email going out to any completely registered official who has been level 3 or level 4 for the past 3 seasons, including this current season. Those are the groups, or that's the group that's eligible to attend and to pursue the tenured status. And as a result of that, once that announcement goes out, we will extend the early bird registration. So there is a little bit of a discount on the registration through March 31st. So bottom line is look for some more information on that coming up here probably in the next week. So that kind of sort of hit on the vast majority of what's going on in the officiating program. Want to get back to the panelists here with a couple more questions. You know, one of the things we really focused on this season, Pat, going into it, and of course we didn't anticipate, you know, the pandemic being around as long as it has and the impact that it has, but we really wanted to place a significant impact or emphasis on a mentoring program as a means to create a better environment for our brand new officials and hopefully be able to keep them around a little bit longer. For those who have heard this before, we lose 50% of our brand new officials each season. But if we can keep them around till year 3, that retention rate becomes 90%. So with that in mind, Pat, is what were you able to accomplish in some of the local areas with the mentor program in your district? And can you share any specific success stories with us?
The pandemic did take a big bite out of what we had planned to do. We're coupling the evaluation coordination, evaluation coordinator, and he's also doing the in charge of the mentoring program. We've had mentoring programs within our district. Certain associations took them on and have had great success with them. Others, and I would say the minority, have not had a mentoring program, but we're trying to get that out to every association so that we can hopefully bring that retention rate up to that level 1, moving on to level 2, and becoming a 2nd and 3rd year official in the future. We just this year we just haven't been able to concentrate on it much. We just haven't had the people to give that kind of time to it. So it's on the radar. It's going to grow. It didn't do anything really this year.
Yeah, I think the pandemic certainly, again, we didn't anticipate that that 13 months or 12 months after it started that we'd still be battling some of the challenges that we have. And I think that that's a pretty common theme throughout the country. But I will say that in conversations with the RICs and some of our meetings, we're still very much committed, you know, to the mentor program and getting that up and running, because we do believe it will have our quickest way to have a positive impact on those new officials and give them a chance to have a positive experience and ultimately be able to set them up for success. Dave, a question for you. I alluded to that we were going to get back to this a little bit later. I know that you've been following the work that BJ's been doing pretty closely, working with our district evaluation coordinators. And can you give us a little bit of an update on what they are working on, what they're doing, and where the future of the evaluation program sits?
I can, and I'm glad you mentioned that. I've just been following it. Certainly, BJ Ringrose and each of the district's evaluation coordinators have been part of a discussion group that have been working and meeting every 2 weeks on basically the best way to describe it is a reboot of the evaluation program. And they really basically started from scratch with regards to taking the experiences that we have and the realities that we know about and trying to come up with a program that is maybe leaning a little more towards the educational portion of evaluations rather than the kind of rating system, you might say, that we kind of were in for a while. And to that end, one of the first changes I think they're making, which is to change the whole perspective on what the evaluation program is that they're no longer going to be evaluators. They're going to be officiating coaches. And that's to basically promote the idea that it's also educational besides evaluation. The development, they're working on developing different standards, performance levels for each level of registration, so that officials are evaluated and coached at the level that they presumably are at based on their levels of experience and the level of games that they're working at. They're also developing a mobile app and a desktop interface of that app for both the officiating coach and the official being evaluated, so that there's better communication and maybe more effective communication between the two of them. And they're working on and putting together a total program that they plan on presenting to the district RICs for a rollout at the beginning of the 21-22 season, which will be the upcoming season. So, I mean, it's amazing the amount of work ground that they've covered and the work that they've done. I know I'm excited to see what the program's going to be in its totality. The important thing, though, and Pat kind of mentioned it, as what was happened in his district with regards to, the success of these programs all depends on the availability of the volunteers to be able to go out and take these responsibilities on. I mean, our volunteers do a terrific job in when they get involved, and this is certainly a very important part, as you said, Matt. I think the evaluation in coordination with the mentoring program can really help us with our retention rate to keep those officials around to that third year and beyond.
Okay, thanks, Dave. We're approaching the top of the hour here. So I'm going to real quickly share my screen one more time. Want to just take a quick moment here to share with everyone the upcoming schedule for those that are interested. Next week, the topic is managing mistakes, and it should be an interesting one in terms of how some of our top officials and the people that go out there that we know that we're not perfect and we make some mistakes. How do we both mentally and physically be able to overcome some of those things to continue on and go out and do our job to the best of our ability. I'll be back on the 16th. We're going to talk about a full hour of retention of officials. My panel or the panel for that one is extremely interesting. We have our supervisor, our local supervisor of officials for the state of Georgia, Paul Carnathan, who is a very experienced official that has worked at the world championship level, the IHF, the American League, and everywhere else that has come through our program. And Thor Nelson, one of Pat's volunteer staff, as the supervisor of officials for the state of North Dakota. Thor obviously brings a vast experience, not only with what he's done in Minot, North Dakota for many, many years, but also as a 20-year linesman in the National Hockey League. And then finally, moving up to March 23rd, I think BJ is going to be back with altercations and a very interesting look at some of the issues that our officials face as they deal with tense situations on the ice, multiple players being involved in activities and the whole altercation grand scheme of things. Want to remind everyone that to please follow us on social media. If you haven't latched on to the You Make the Call on Friday on Twitter and Instagram, you may want to do that every Friday morning. USA Hockey Twitter account sends out a video clip and asks everyone to make the call. And then the officiating program follows up with through social media in the afternoon with the correct answer And we're also, you can follow us on YouTube. All of the Zoomcasts thus far are on demand, and you can go back and watch any of them on the YouTube channel, USA Hockey YouTube channel, and the other social media outlets as well. Want to just remind everyone that BJ will be sending up a follow-up survey, and appreciate your input in terms of the topics and how we're doing with these Zoomcasts. I want to thank all the participants for joining us tonight. I want to give a special thanks out to the panelists for taking time out of their busy volunteer schedules to be a part of our session tonight, and give them really one last opportunity here to say any final words of wisdom. The season is pretty much wrapping up. I know that we're moving into state tournaments, district tournaments, eventually in the nationals and those types of things. Pat, do you have any words of wisdom for our audience in terms of how they can finish the season strong and best serve the game?
I'd like to thank them for their dedication, their commitment to officiating, and getting out there, attending this Zoomcast. I would like to challenge them, if they know of any incomplete officials out there, to encourage them to get complete, because not only does it get them through this current hockey season, but it will also allow them to do games up until November of next season. So just by completing this season, we'll be on a good start to next season. And yeah, finish the season strong. You've put in a lot of effort to get complete. You've navigated a lot of obstacles to get to this point. So yes, please finish strong, and thank you guys for all your work.
Thanks, Pat. Very much appreciate you joining us tonight. Dave, final words of wisdom.
I want to second what Pat just said and just add to that list of benefits to completing your registration, that to complete your registration will also then keep intact your registration history so that you can continue to receive your service awards. I think, for those of us who've been around for a while, we still look forward to those things. And thank you to all of you. Continue to stay safe, and look forward to hopefully someday very soon seeing everybody in an ice rink.
Very good. Thanks, Dave. So once again, it's 7 o'clock Mountain Time. Thank you to all the participants for joining us tonight. We very much appreciate your continued commitment and dedication to the USA Hockey Officiating Program, and wish everyone the best for a safe and very successful end to the season. And let's make sure that over the course of whatever it is, the next 2 months leading up to the final games, let's make sure that we're the best team out on the ice. Thanks, everyone, and good night.